friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So today we are doing a little bit of a, well, this is a Talktorial first of all, but the first thing I want to talk about is what we're going to be playing with, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to be talking about, because normally when I do Talktorials, I just kind of chit chat, but I actually want to talk about something that I know is not going to appeal to everyone, so I understand if you want to skip this video, but I have been obsessively listening to the new Taylor Swift album, and I know some of you are Swifties, and I want to talk about it with you guys. So we're going to be talking about Taylor Swift today while I apply makeup, but we're going to be playing with the new Wild Nothing collection from Colourpop. I was actually going to play with an older palette today because I haven't really bought any new palettes lately. And then this, literally right before I sat down to film, my dog had to go out, and I was like, oh, I'll take him out before I run upstairs to film. And this was sitting on my doorstep, the entire Wild Nothing collection from Colourpop, which was so cool. With Colourpop, they sometimes send some releases and sometimes don't, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna get this, but I was super interested in it, so I'm happy that I did. I got like all of the blushes, and like there's also, they have this new cream matte shadow formula that I really want to play with, and then it also came with some Jelly Much shadows. I know this is a new formula. They're like lip stains, so we're just gonna play, and obviously the new palette, so we're just gonna play around with this today, make a look. I don't know, I'm gonna pull from the palette a little bit. However, I feel like my Colourpop reviews are very boring because it's just a good consistent formula that I really like. So I can tell you pretty much as long as this is the normal Colourpop formula, I'm probably gonna like it. So I do kind of want to play with these new matte cream shadows because it's a new product from them, and I'm very interested in how that actually works. So if you're interested in that, and we're also gonna be ranking the new Taylor Swift album, and I'm gonna be telling you my ranks. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Who am I, Philip DeFranco? So I want to preface this whole conversation by saying that I don't think there was like a horrible song on this album. I genuinely liked all of the songs, which usually with Taylor, I usually hate at least one of the songs. For example, on Lover, Me was the worst song she's ever made. It's so bad, in my opinion. Another thing too, this is all my opinion. If you wholeheartedly disagree with me, that's totally fine. I actually love talking with Swifties about their opinions, so leave them down below. So I want to preface this by saying I don't think there's any like horrible songs, but there were definitely songs that I personally vibed less with. So that's what we're gonna be talking about. First, the number 16th song for me, the worst song, was Epiphany. I'm gonna go in distract from the fact that I just said that. I'm gonna go in with the cream shadow in Bronco. It's just this white color. I'm super interested in how this is going to like work. I'm very interested. Epiphany, to me, here's the thing. I think this is the type of song going to grow on me, because when I first heard The Archer off of Lover, I hated it. I hate her more slow, like hyper slow songs. I obviously love some of her other slow songs, but her like droney, if that's the best way to put it, her more droney songs, I've just never ever been a fan of, especially right off the bat. The more I listened to The Archer, the more I liked it. So far I've listened to Epiphany about 15 times and I still think it's not very good. So I'm not sure if I have high hopes for Epiphany, but that one was just honestly the most boring to me, like on first listen. I also think its placement in the album is not great, because one thing I will say about this album, I do like it a lot, but there's definitely not, you know, where other albums have kind of the highs and the lows, so it's kind of like a roller coaster. You have like the upbeat songs, and then you have ones that are a little bit more slow, and then you have more upbeat ones, and then it's slow. Whereas this album was kind of like melancholy. You know, that looks pretty good. I have crinkly eyelids, so sometimes cream stuff doesn't look great, but Epiphany for me, number 16, just not great for me. Number 15, Hoax, the last song on the album. You know, this one just is, to me, a little forgettable, and I don't know why. It's just, it did, again, same thing with like Epiphany, just didn't hit it for me. I've listened, the way I like to listen, especially to Taylor Swift albums, is when she comes out with a new one, I listen to it all the way through, and then I do that over and over and over and over again until my boyfriend physically has to tell me to stop. So I've been listening to this over and over and over and over again, and I listen to it all the way through. I don't really put it on shuffle until like it's been out for a little while. I've been listening to it over and over and over again, and Hoax, always for me, I'm just like, man, can we just circle back to the one, because I'm over this song. Go in with this cream shadow in Laurel. this kind of soft brown, and I'm using just normal brushes. Yeah, Hoax for me, I don't even honestly remember how it goes. Just one of those songs. And I know people on Twitter were dragging me for this opinion. They were like,
Hoax, it's the best one.
Not to me, just my opinion. I can't wait to get canceled. Okay, this one I'm actually, what did I have for 13? I'm debating changing this. I think I'm actually going to turn August into 14. I don't really like August. I think, not that I don't like it. It's a good song. I understand the fan theory that I've been seeing that like 3 of the songs, I believe it's August, Cardigan, and Betty, are all kind of related in their own, they make up their own cinematic universe of things or whatever. Everybody's like, August is the perspective of this person and this and this. And like, that's all fine. August to me, again, one of the ones that just kind of faded into the background, especially the first few times I've been listening. I will say that it goes for me like Epiphany, Hoax are lowest, and then August jumps significantly. So I still like the song, just out of all the other ones, probably one of the more forgettable ones. It's interesting to me because for the most part, I normally like the beginning part of Taylor's albums better. I like the first half of the album usually more. And this album was very similar. I really vibed with a lot of the more beginning songs, and the second half of the album, not as much. So I think this is pretty on par. But again, August, I've heard a lot of people say it's really good. They can have that opinion. I disagree. So for 13, I'm gonna put Mirror Ball. And this actually moved up. Mirror Ball was 14. Mirror Ball to me, again, I think it's the droniness of some of her music, which again, love it. Like Mirror Ball's still a bop. I'll bop to it. I'm gonna go in with the Cream Shadow and Moonbeam. I like how this looks so far. It's a very like, it's a very summery basic look. I could see you creating in sort of everyday neutral look with these shadows. They blend really easily too, because I mean they're cream, but yeah, Mirror Ball's fun. I like the chorus of Mirror Ball a lot because it's very like whimsical. I love the chorus. The chorus is obviously very catchy. Like I want to spin around in circles when I listen to it. However, I don't think the verses are as good in my opinion as some of the other songs. For me, the verses are a little bit more like, I don't know, just not as this album in particular. I love all of her songs for being very well written. Like I don't necessarily love Taylor Swift as a singer, but I love her as a lyricist. I think her lyrics are so amazing and so just like good. Like I think her lyrics speak to me as a person. In my opinion, this album lyrically is one of her best she's ever made because the lyrics of these songs are all hauntingly beautiful. However, with that being said, Mirror Ball, while the hook is very catchy, the actual words to the song, the actual meat of the song, I'll pass. But I definitely want to wear like a silver sparkly dress and like dance to this song. So 12 is This Is Me Trying. I do like this song. This Is Me Trying is a really good song. I think I'm gonna go into the palette now and play around a little bit. I'm gonna add, let's add this sort of like pink peach shade right here. I'm just gonna add this really to the front of the eye look. I feel like me, especially when I was younger, would have absolutely been obsessed with this song because it's very reminiscent of how I used to feel when I was younger. But again, still just compared to the other ones, lower. Once we get to the top 10 is where I feel passionately. Mad Woman, number 11. Mad Woman's good. It's definitely the first song I've ever heard Taylor Swift say fuck in. So that was for me exciting. I was like, but Charles was like, what happened? I was like, she said fuck. I was like, I can't believe that. I was happy that she cursed on this album and actually like said things. But I appreciate that she was like, hey, I'm a human being and I also say the F word. Like it was just nice. And I did like the song. I liked the message of the song. I thought that was all great. Lyrically, not in my top 10. However, Betty, number 10. When I first heard Betty, I didn't get it. I wasn't a big fan of Betty, and I put my little ranking on Twitter, my first, I'm gonna go into Come Together, this shade right here. I put my little ranking on Twitter, my like first ranking after listening to it for a day, and I put Betty very low. I believe I put Betty at, it was number 11, so it's number 10 now, but everybody was like, Betty's not even in the top 10, what's wrong with you? And so I listened to Betty a bunch more times, and listen, I like Betty. It's a good song. It's adorable. It's so cute. I love the meaning behind it. I love the message behind it. I like the aspects of this album where she wrote about characters that weren't herself. I think that's really interesting. I think in a way, almost all of the songs could be either about her life or be perceived as a story she's telling from something else. And she kind of alluded to that. She talked about how she wrote about people she's never met. She wrote about people she has met. She wrote stories from her own life, from other people's lives. And I kind of like that in her past albums, it's always speculation of like, who was this song about? It's in her life. Whereas this song, it's kind of obvious that this was written about something kind of different. The more I listen to Betty, the more I like it. It's a bop. Like, and also the key change in the part where she's like, showed up at your party. And then she's like, so I showed up at your party. And every time that happens, I'm like, she showed up at the party, and it's awesome. So I definitely really like Betty. Oh, and then we have Peace. I like Peace. Again, maybe Betty should be higher than Peace. I'm actually gonna put Betty at 9 and Peace at 10. And that's only because Betty is just catchier. Peace is really nice though. I like the vibe of Peace. I also, as a person, I think I'm very like personally connected to music. So if I personally can relate to a song more as me, then I'm gonna be way more into it. So Peace for me is a song that I relate to as a person. Like the whole message and the vibe of the song, I totally vibe with. That's like how I feel. I feel like Taylor Swift always does that to me, where she makes songs that I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I feel. And for me, that's Peace. I definitely like emotionally relate to that song. But I think I'm gonna put Peace at 10 and Betty at 9. Because if I'm thinking objectively, Betty is a better song than Peace, I think. Oh man, it gets tough. Okay, the top 8 are like nearly impossible because they're all very similar to me, but I love them. But this is what I'd have to put it at. 8 would have to be Invisible String. And that makes me so sad because Invisible String makes me emotional. And that's, I'm going in with the deep brown shade in this palette, the shade No Bounds right here. Okay, Invisible String makes me emotional, and that's just because it makes me think of my fiance, and that's just because, oh, that's so lame. Really, I've talked about it a little bit, but before we actually met and started dating, our paths crossed so many times unbeknownst to us. Like, we've talked back about our lives, and we have been at the same events multiple times. I lived like 2 minutes from him when I got my first apartment in Rochester. So we like would have driven past each other probably. There was like, I went to the same college as he used to go to. My friends went there when we first graduated high school. So I've probably been at parties that he had been at. Like, we knew similar people from that college. Like, our paths have crossed so much in life. And it almost does feel like there was that, like, not to be cheesy, but it does feel like there was that gold string that was like pulling us together to get to this point where we were together. And I've always said about my fiance that I met him at like a perfect time in my life where I had gone through a bunch of different things, and so did he. But I met him at the perfect place in my life. Like, we met at the perfect time for everything to work out for us. If I had met him at a different time in my life, or met him at like one of those times where our paths crossed, I don't think we would have had the same relationship. I don't think it would have worked the same way that it did. So I love that song, and one of the lyrics in that one always gets me. After I listened to that song, I was like, okay, I found the caption for what I post on Instagram about our wedding. I wish I could place it higher, but some of these songs are just so gosh darn good that I can't put Invisible String higher just because I personally relate to it. Next, and again, this is where it gets dicey, My Tears Ricochet. That song, the first time I heard it, I remember I was doing my skincare routine and I was like, oh my God, she's dead. But I loved it. I love everything about that song. I love the message. I love that it could have, I'm gonna mix together, I think I'm gonna do like a really light peachy under eye. So I'm gonna mix these two shades, the Top Down and Morning Side. Mix those together. I just remember being like, there are so many different meanings and messages that this song could have, and I thought that was brilliant. Like, a lot of people were saying it was her feeling she felt when her old music producer sold all of her old, if you know anything about Taylor Swift, you know what I'm talking about, but it was how she felt when Scott Borchetta like sold all of her music to Scooter Braun, and I was like, oh my God, yes. And then I saw that it was about this guy who was crazy obsessed with this woman and killed her, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what it's about. Like, this song has so many different meanings. The more you listen to it, the more meanings it has. It's also just a beautiful metaphor. I think especially if you've ever been in a relationship that was toxic or abusive, it's like a beautiful metaphor for how that feels. And obviously not dying, like, but when you finally leave that toxic situation and you leave that toxic person, they're like cursing you for leaving. They're cursing you for not staying. They're so mad at you for not staying. But it's always about them. They're not actually sad for you. They're not sad for the loss that you would have experienced. They're not sad that you went through so much. They're sad for them. And like, that part of it, oh, gives me chills even thinking about it. I love that song. I think a lot of this was Taylor telling stories, like creatively just coming up with these types of scenarios. But I also think a a lot of it was her working through, because I mean, as people who have followed her life, we obviously don't know everything, but I think as fans, you kind of do know certain aspects of her life. And I think a lot of this is her talking about and working through certain things that she's gone through that she's never really talked about before. And I think that's awesome. Number 6. The higher I get in this ranking, the harder it gets. But I have to say number 6, I'm gonna do number 6 as The One. I'm switching things up. The One is a great song, and it was a great way to start the album. Like, I'm doing good, I'm on some new shit. Like, yes, me too. Like, let's talk about it. Like, I love The One. I also think The One is a really, like, sweet song. It's really cute. It's kind of like, oh, I kind of wish things had worked out. I feel like there's always that one person in your life, unless you've been, like, dating the same person for 100 years, which, great, amazing, cannot relate. But there's always, you know, you go through life and there's that one person you're like, man, if something had been different, do you think things would have been different with us? And like, I think a lot of people have that. I do. So when I listened to that song at first, I was like, man, again, kind of just a classic relatable Taylor song. Like, a lot of people have that emotion of one thing had been different. If I had been different in some way, if you had been different in some way, would have worked? Could you have been the one? And I love that. So that's a great song. It doesn't make it to the top 5 just because it's a little too classic Taylor. Whereas this album is definitely not classic Taylor. The most I could relate this song to would be the Red album. I think this is like a mature Red album, which Red is one of my favorite albums. I think it actually is my favorite album. This feels like a mature Red album, and I think that's really fun, but The One feels much more like Red era, Lover era, and that's kind of why it ranks a little bit lower. Not because it's not good, it's just a little bit more classic Taylor Swift. Now we have to get into the top 5. Number 5 would have to be Cardigan. Yeah, I really like Cardigan. I think it's really cute. It's a great song. I already know the words, all the words to that one. I wasn't a huge fan of the music video, and okay, I'm gonna use the Jelly Much shadow in the shade Mojave. I'm gonna put an editing me of how you actually pronounce that. Mojave Moves, and I don't really love the Jelly Much formula, but this one looks so pretty, this color, that I want to try it. So again, so cute. I really love the metaphors used. I also, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, she's talking about, you know, a relationship, but I was reading the comments on the music video and somebody was like, no, she's talking about her relationship with like the music industry. This is why I love Taylor Swift fans, because I feel like everybody looks 10 times deeper than even Taylor freaking looked. I listened to the song from that perspective of like, no, this is about her relationship with the music industry and how sometimes she feels like her prime time is over. How the best years that she had are like done, but how every time she comes out with new stuff, her fans are like ride or die for it. And I was like, oh my God, I love that metaphor. I was a big fan of Cardigan for that reason. I also, again, like relatable. I have felt like an old cardigan under. It's like when Katy Perry came out with Firework and I was like, I do feel like a plastic bag. And I feel like it's such a relatable feeling of feeling not good enough, feeling like you're not someone's favorite anymore. Things have moved on. That's such a relatable feeling to me. So I loved that. So I definitely put Cardigan. I like Cardigan. It's a cute, I know it feels a little cliche to put it so high because it was like the first single, but it's so cute. It's such a cute song. And then we had number 4, which is Exile. Like the 2-minute and 30-second mark of Exile. When she first sang, when I was listening to this for the first time, and he was like,
you didn't give many signs.
And she was like, I gave so many signs. I was like, oh my God, I felt it in my bones. I was so excited about that. I just like felt that line, I gave so many signs. I felt it in my bones. Like, so I was like, oh, I gave so many signs. I don't know why. Again, she just like speaks to me sometimes. My phone doesn't recognize me when I have makeup on. I've been in quarantine too long. It was just such a relatable moment that I love. And also Bon Iver's voice, it gives me goosebumps. It's such a good song. I'm gonna go in with the shade Spirited from the palette. I'm gonna just go over this and give it that little extra sparkle. So yeah, Exile, ugh. Beautiful. I wish she would do more duets because well, except for me, I hated that song. But I wish she would do more duets because I do feel like she does so well with other people. Her voice is super compatible with other people. I wish she would do them more. Not that she needs to, but I always love her duets. Okay, number 3 is 7. I know some people don't like this song. I'm gonna go in with Sultan right here and put that kind of on the outer part. A glam look, hello. 7 is such a cute song. 7 I love the folksy vibe to it. I know this is technically she's claiming this is like a folk album, but this song in particular had such strong folksy vibes that I really, really enjoyed. The song is also just so pure and innocent. Like the part where she talks about the house being haunted and that's why your dad's always angry and like run away with me. Like it's written from such a childlike mindset that is so pure and sweet, and especially given the current political climate and the current social climate, having a song that is so just pure and about like being friends with kids. I just loved it. I loved the perspective of it. I'm gonna go into No Bounds again and just deepen up my lower lash line because I think it looks a little nutty. Coming in at number 2, we have Illicit Affairs. That is in like a league of its own. Illicit Affairs is such a good song. It's so good. It's so well written. The perspective is beautiful. Like it's such a genuinely just good song. It's also high key for like a Taylor Swift song, kind of just scandalous, and I'm here for it. But something about the imagery that she provided is such a feeling of like, oh my god, like it was such powerful imagery of being a secret and being hidden, and like how she talked about going from meeting in fancy places to meeting in parking lots, and how taxing and the toll of being somebody's secret could be on a person. And I was just so enamored by that song. I thought it was the thing about this album that I love is that I feel like it could literally be a musical. Like I feel like you could write a musical based on all of these songs. The imagery is so strong and the storytelling is so good that I just loved Illicit Affairs. It was, number 2 for sure. And the only reason it's number 2 is because my absolute favorite song on the album, number 1, coming in hot, The Last Great American Dynasty. So I'm sorry, I feel like you either love it or you hate it. The Last Great American Dynasty, my absolute favorite song. The first time I started listening to it, I had to restart it because I was like, what the f is she talking about? Like I was like, she stole a dog and died at Key Lime Green. The storytelling, I'm a musical theater kid at heart, so storytelling will always get me. I'm just such a sucker for storytelling. I always have been. I'm gonna try these lip stains. I've never been the biggest fan of lip stains, so I'm a little nervous. I love that it has a beginning, a middle, and end. The story has this beautiful arc. I love the aspect of kind of female empowerment that's brought into it, how, you know, classist things can be. I just love everything about that song. This is the shade Skinny Dip. Is it a gloss or Colourpop? It's a lip oil. I kind of wanted a little bit more color. This is definitely a nude color. Let's try this one. It's a little bit darker. This is the shade Playa Vista. Kind of reminds me of the Clarins lip oils a little bit. Oh, I really like these. Okay, all right. Well, I like these. That was fun. It's the greatest song. Convince me I'm wrong. You can't. So that was my ranking of Folklore, and also my review. I didn't even talk about the palette really, but okay, here's the thing. Palette, it's cute. This color story is cute, but I do feel it's very similar to other Colourpop palettes, just with a pop of green. Like, where's mine? Like, this is the Sweet Talk palette, and this is the other one. Similar, like similar vibes. This is a little bit more pastel, but for the most part, you have very similar color story in here, a pretty similar vibe to it. This is just a little bit more pastel with green. So kind of pastel-y neutrals is your vibe. I do think you'd like this. The formula is great. It's Colourpop formula. I'm a fan. What I was really impressed by, the matte cream shadows. I'm so impressed by these. I want to use them more. I could have stopped after just using the cream matte shadows and still created this like beautiful look with the Jelly Much shadows, which I'm not a big fan of, but I could have stopped and only used these and then just put a shimmer on and achieved a pretty similar look. I hope they come out with these in more colors because I'm a big fan of how this performed. I loved that they were more neutral shades because they were super easy to use. They blended in really nicely. I think especially if you're somebody who likes sort of dewy, natural-esque makeup, which I have been super into lately, I think you would really, really like these. They're super fun. They were super easy to use, super easy to blend out. Fan of these for sure. Probably gonna use these a lot. I just don't like the Jelly Much shadows. I tried this one again to give it a go and I hated it. I had to put a shimmer over it. They just, because my eyes are so crinkly, I think they just don't work for me. But I know a lot of people who do really like them who don't have as crinkly eyes. So if your eyes have a lot of texture, I don't think you would like these. But if they don't, you probably would like these. I was very impressed by the lip oils. Definitely going to try these out a little bit more, but so far, very comfortable on my lips. I haven't really been buying lip products because I wear masks all the time. But if I do wear a lip product, it's usually a gloss because it's harder to mess it up and it's easier to reapply. reapply. So this will be kind of fun to play around with. They also did send over these blushes. Here's the thing. If you guys remember my review of the Milan collection, this is a very similar vibe to with these blushes where they have shimmer in them, but they're not shimmery, glittery blushes. They're just matte blushes with glitter in them. That's the vibe I'm getting just from looking at them. So I'm probably not going to be a massive fan of these, but they are pretty. Like, they look nice. If you don't mind that and you're not as picky about that as me, I think you would like these. However, I can just tell these are matte blushes. You can't even see the shimmer on the screen because they're not supposed to be glittery, shimmery blushes. They're supposed to be matte with glitter for some reason. So I'm probably not gonna like these. I think it's very cute, very good for summer, you know? Colourpop usually comes in with wins for me, so I would say about half of this collection I really vibed with. I definitely think the winner though was these cream matte shadows. This is awesome. That's gonna be it for me. That was my ranking of Folklore. Please tell me how you feel about the album down below. I would love to hear it. And if you're interested in getting this collection, what you thought, I mean, you know, whatever, just comment whatever you want.
Before I start this outro, I have to break the horrific news to you guys that I forgot to film a mandatory narcissistic montage, which is mandatory, and I forgot. So there isn't one in this video, but if you want, I can do some voguing right now with no makeup on to copyright free music. So this is that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just like, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I just put on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right. You can click on that link. You can register to vote, and you can be part of your democracy. Super fun thing to do. Super important. And also down there will be my little social justice spotlight. I have mental health info. I have important petitions to sign, important places to donate. So make sure you check that out as well. And yeah. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!